The moment NASCAR shut the door on Talladega, everything was supposed to cool off. That was the expectation. A quiet pause, a step back, maybe even a reality check. But that's not what happened, not even close. Because instead of fading into the background, Cleetus McFarland flipped the entire narrative on its head. Within days, he came back with an announcement that hit harder than the rejection itself. It's official. May 30th, Nashville Superspeedway. The number 33 Tommy's Express Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet is rolling back onto the track. Same team, same car, but a completely different situation. And here's where it gets interesting. The no from NASCAR didn't weaken the story, it amplified it. What was supposed to slow him down actually made this next race feel bigger than anything he's done so far. The spotlight didn't shrink, it got sharper. And now, every move he makes in Nashville is going to be watched like it actually matters. Because now it does. But before you even get to the controversy, you have to understand the man in the middle of it. Because some people still think this is just a YouTuber getting lucky. That's the easy version of the story. The wrong version. Garrett Mitchell isn't just some random name that showed up in a NASCAR entry list. He built something. Over 4.7 million subscribers watching him push cars to their limits, break them, rebuild them, and then do it all over again. He turned passion into a business, and then into a platform. He didn't wait for permission to be part of motorsports. He created his own lane. Buying an abandoned track and turning it into the Freedom Factory wasn't just a flex, it was a statement. And while people were watching the chaos on YouTube, something else was happening in the background. ARCA races, seat time, learning curves that don't show up in highlight clips, and eventually, a real opportunity with Richard Childress Racing. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens when someone is willing to take hits, look bad, and keep going anyway. Which is exactly why this entire situation feels different. Because this isn't a stunt, it's a climb. Then came the decision that changed everything. Talladega, one of the fastest, most dangerous tracks on the schedule. The plan was in place, Cleetus in the car, RCR ready to go, and then NASCAR stepped in and said no, just like that. And the reasoning? Clear, direct, and impossible to ignore. The approval process works race by race. Progression needs to be demonstrated, and Talladega is not the place to be still learning the basics of running these cars in traffic. That wasn't personal, that was policy. Because Talladega isn't forgiving, it's pack racing at nearly 200 miles per hour, where one small mistake doesn't stay small, it spreads, instantly. They are not saying never, they are saying not yet. That's how NASCAR framed it. A delay, not a denial. A step in the process, not the end of the road. From a safety standpoint, it made sense. Protect the field, protect the drivers, protect the sport itself. Simple, logical, necessary. Except, it didn't feel simple, not to the fans. Because from their perspective, it looked different. They saw a driver who showed up at Rockingham, took his beating, and still finished the race. They saw someone bringing new attention to NASCAR, new energy, new eyes. And when NASCAR pulled him from Talladega, it didn't feel like patience. It felt like resistance, like the bar was being set higher for him than it would be for someone else. And that's where this stopped being about one race. It became something bigger, a question that doesn't have a clean answer. Where does popularity fit in a sport built on tradition? NASCAR even admitted the tension. There is a fine line between entertainment and the sport itself. And Cleetus? He's standing right on that line. Not fully accepted, not fully rejected, just constantly judged. Every lap, every move, every decision being picked apart in real time. And then there's Rockingham, the race that quietly changed everything without looking impressive on paper. 32nd place, 6 laps down, a spin late in the race. If you only look at the stats, it's easy to dismiss. Easy to say NASCAR made the right call. But the numbers don't tell the full story. As predicted, got my butt kicked, but I finished the race. That's the part that matters. He didn't quit, he didn't crash out, he didn't take anyone with him. He ran all 250 laps, stayed out of trouble, learned in real time. There was even a moment where Jesse Love caught him to lap him, and instead of panicking, Cleetus tucked in behind, studied the line, and immediately adjusted what he'd been doing wrong all day. That's not something you fake, that's how drivers get better. That's exactly what NASCAR said they needed to see, and whether people wanted to admit it or not, he gave them a reason to keep watching. And then the tone shifted, not from the fans, not from the headlines, but from inside the sport itself. Because Kyle Petty, one of the loudest voices pushing back against this whole situation, suddenly changed direction. Before Rockingham, he wasn't holding back. He questioned the decision, the experience level, even what it meant for NASCAR's future. Others piled on too, including Kyle Busch, who made it personal by saying his own kid had more seat time. That's the kind of criticism that sticks. But after Rockingham, something unexpected happened. Petty didn't double down, he didn't ignore it either. He faced it head on and said, "If you're going to criticize, you've got to give credit." Cleetus did what he needed to do. He ran every lap. He didn't tear anything up. He didn't really get in anybody's way. And that's what he needed to do to shut up guys like me. That line didn't just echo, it changed the conversation. Because when a critic admits you proved something, even partially, the narrative starts to crack open. While that shift was happening publicly, something even more important was happening quietly. No spotlight, no big announcement, just another race. This time in the ARCA Menards series at Kansas Speedway. And this is where the story takes a turn most people didn't see coming. He started deep in the field 25th, buried in traffic where it's easy to get lost. But instead of staying there, he started moving. Slowly at first, then with purpose. Positions gained, confidence building, until suddenly he was running 7th. Not surviving, competing. That's a completely different picture than Rockingham. But just as quickly as it came together, it fell apart. Engine failure, race over, no finish, no highlight result. But here's the part that matters. The people who needed to see it, saw it. Because raw speed doesn't need a finishing position to prove it exists. And Cleetus understood that. He didn't sound frustrated, he didn't sound defeated, he said it felt like a win. He pointed out he completed more than 75% of the race and showed top 10 pace. That's not someone chasing attention, that's someone measuring progress. And that's where everything begins to line up. NASCAR didn't approve Talladega because they needed more proof, more development, more signs that he could handle the step up. Rockingham showed survival, Kansas showed speed, put those together, and suddenly the picture looks different. The decision starts to make sense, not emotionally, but structurally. Because NASCAR's system isn't built on hype, it's built on evidence, and Kansas added something real to his case. So when Richard Childress Racing posted those 4 simple words on April 20th, "He's back," it carried weight. Not just as an announcement, but as confirmation that something had changed behind the scenes. Cleetus McFarland wasn't just returning, he was being trusted again. May 30th, Nashville Superspeedway. A new opportunity, but under very different expectations. Because this track isn't chaos like Talladega, it's control, it's rhythm, it's discipline over time. And now, the pressure feels different. Before, it was all about entry, about whether he even deserved to be there. Now that question has evolved. Now it's about performance, about progress you can't hide. Nashville becomes a measuring stick, a place where improvement shows up clearly or doesn't. And that's where things get uncomfortable, because the conversation has shifted from doubt to challenge. People aren't asking, "Why is he here?" anymore. They're asking, "What can he actually do?" That's heavier, that's harder to answer, because now there's something to lose: respect, momentum, credibility that's just starting to build. If he struggles, the critics come back stronger. If he delivers, the entire story flips again. And suddenly, this isn't just about one driver trying something new. It becomes a signal about where NASCAR is headed, and who gets to be part of that future. So now everything points to Nashville. One race, but it carries the weight of everything that came before it. The rejection, the response, the quiet grind in between. Cleetus McFarland isn't walking into this moment as a question mark anymore. He's walking in as a test case. For himself, for NASCAR, and for a fan base that still can't fully agree on what this all means. Because at its core, this story was never just about Talladega. It was about timing, about proving something before you're allowed to take the next step. And now that step is here. The lights will be on. The expectations will be louder, and every lap will say something, whether people are ready to hear it or not. So when it's all over, what will the story be? A YouTuber who got a second chance? Or a driver who made it impossible to say no again?